Well, hey there, and welcome to Rural Strong Live, tonight presented by Economics by Nutrien. You can listen to The Dirt from Nutrien on Rural Strong Radio with excerpts on tractors and troubadours. It's a great weekly agronomic program hosted by Nutrien senior agronomist Mike Howell, and we're going to tell you more about that at the end of the show. But right now, we want to get to today's special guest, singer-songwriter Clayton Hackle. He's a native of Metter, Georgia, not too far down the road from that beautiful country of Savannah. And these days, he runs the roads between Georgia and Nashville, Tennessee, where he's building a music career. We're thrilled to get to share some of his new music with you tonight. And Clayton, welcome in here to Real Strong Live.
Brent, thanks for having me, man. Super glad to be here tonight.
Absolutely. Well, this one's a long time in the making. You've been on my radar for quite some time here, and have been watching you build a career and listen to this great music. And we got a special place in our heart for mid and South Georgia here. We have a lot of followers here, and excited to get you on the show.
Yeah, man. I'm super glad to be here. Anytime I get to play music or talk about music with anybody that's willing to listen, I'm always glad to do it. So for anybody that's listening, thanks for having me. Thanks for hanging with us tonight.
Well, I tell you what, before we get into your story a bit, would you mind sharing a song with us?
Yeah, man. I'm going to play actually the first song I took to Nashville. And this was a song I really believed in. A friend of mine, Kyle Bradley, and I wrote it. He's actually from Dallas, Texas, but we met through our local university here, just outside of Metter in Statesboro, Georgia, Georgia Southern University. But this was the song I kind of felt brewing inside of me for years, and I just knew after we got done writing it, this was the song that was going to take me to Nashville for the first time, and ended up being a pretty great big song for me. So this one's called "Georgia Calls Me Home." Your mountains and your beaches, your sweet summer peaches, waves of cotton rolling in the breeze, taking pulls from a mason jar, passing around old guitars, a slice of heaven that'll bring you to your knees. This ground that I grew up on runs through my veins and in my bones. It's buried in my heart, way down deep. Like a lighthouse on the coast, it shines a light down in my soul. It's part of who I am and who I'll always be. 'Cause no matter where I roam, Georgia calls me home. Rows and rows of tall pines, a homemade muscadine wine, a faded old Braves cap, and worn out jeans. Driving down your red dirt roads, fishing out of an old John boat. There ain't a place on earth I'd rather be. This ground that I grew up on runs through my veins and in my bones. It's buried in my heart, way down deep. Like a lighthouse on the coast, it shines a light down in my soul. It's part of who I am and who I'll always be. 'Cause no matter where I roam, Georgia calls me home. From the wide open Arizona skies to the great big Rocky Mountain highs and all the roads, no matter where they wind, you're always on my mind. This ground that I grew up on runs through my veins and in my bones. It's buried in my heart, way down deep. Like a lighthouse on the coast, it shines a light down in my soul. is part of who I am and who I'll always be. Of all the love I've known, and no matter where I roam, Georgia calls me home. Georgia calls me home.
Great stuff there.
Thanks, man.
Clayton just released his latest single, Lost in the Country, which we're going to share here toward the end of the program. So I hope you stick around for that. But before we do, take us back to Metter, Georgia here. Population 3,994 as of last count here. What was it like growing up there, and how did it shape you both as a man and as a songwriter?
Wow, that is a huge question. I didn't even know we were at 3,900 and some change. That's new news for me. But yeah, man, it's such a great community in this area. I grew up on the outskirts of town, farming community, and just growing up, kind of knowing everybody in the town. Everybody knew who you were, knew who your parents were. Just a real small town feel in an agriculture community on top of that. So I don't know, man. The town in itself, like, puts off a great vibe. There's a lot of just appreciation for the area that we're in. So I kind of grew up with the same sentiment, like just really appreciating seeing the sunrise every morning over the cotton field, or, seeing the stars at nighttime. And I'm also a big believer in God. So I'm just thankful that my faith ties into my community as well. So all that kind of played a part into who I am now as an artist and as the person, Clayton, too. So, yeah, man, it was a great place to grow up, and I'm fortunate to still live pretty close to where I grew up. So,
Well, you mentioned agriculture, and it's prominently featured in some of your videos. I understand that's because you yourself have a bit of an agriculture background.
yeah, so my grandfather and my great grandfather were both farmers, and I grew up on the same farm that they established, I don't know, over 100 years ago. So I got to see all the hard work that went into it, all the fruits of the labor as well. But it's really just made a big impact on me, not just, the landscapes and seeing it, but just the morals that goes into living that kind of a life, the life of a farmer. You learn to really invest a lot of who you are into your work. So all that kind of bled through into me and now into my music. So it's been a really cool full circle thing for me to be able to experience.
Well, one of those videos that includes a nod to agriculture is Till the Cows Come Home. Tell us about this song and video.
Yeah, man. So this song, funny enough, I grew up, my grandpa was a cattle farmer, and after he retired, he had to sell them all because it was just one of those things in life you go through when you get older. But I actually grew up right down the road from the location of where this video was filmed, and I always really admired when I drove past it, the hundreds of times I drove past it. They were just super beautiful longhorn, they were like Texas longhorns, actually. They weren't really a common cow you'd see around this area, but it was just always kind of a spectacle and just something beautiful to look at when you drove by. So when I got the concept for this song, I had to film a video there. Like I really wanted to do everything I could to make it happen. So long story short, the property owners were kind enough to let me and my band and my film crew come out and film on this piece of property. That was just so awesome for me. And also it being close to home was just a cherry on top of the situation. So yeah, it was really fun, man.
Well, you're getting to work around animals. Everything goes smoothly for that shoot?
Yeah, so it was interesting, man. There's a scene in the video where I'm pouring out some minerals in one of the feed troughs for the cows, and I was kind of warned, we got one shot at this, so don't screw it up, but also like keep your eyes open because these cows are going to come in kind of quickly. So and they have sharp horns too, so you have to really watch out. But yeah, it went out, it came out pretty good. It was a lot of fun. There was a lot of you know cool moments that you wouldn't typically get to see in a music video shoot. But I got to ride a horse. I don't think it made the video cut because it was super awkward, but I'm not a horse guy. But it was a lot of fun for that video for sure.
Well, the finished product turned out great here, and we're going to share it so everybody can see it now. This is Till the Cows Come Home.
Monday, 6 a.m., snooze button gets hit again. Put the covers over my head, reach out and pull you in. Yeah, the way last night went sure made my heart spin. I'd hate to see it end, but I hear that rooster crowing, I see the sunrise. The world's waking up, but I wanna stay inside. Gonna hold on to you where we can be alone, 'cause I could lay here with you, girl, till the cows come home. Tangled up in these sheets, right where I wanna be, curled up here next to you. Your touch is all I need. I know there's work to do, but I think you could wait a few, 'cause that look in your eyes says you want it too. But I hear that rooster crowing, I see the sunrise. The world's waking up, but I wanna stay inside. Gonna hold on to you where we can be alone, 'cause I could lay here with you, girl, till the cows come home. On the floor, shut the blinds, lock up the door. I hear that rooster crowing, I see the sunrise. The world's waking up, but I wanna stay inside. Gonna hold on to you where we can be alone. Yeah, I hear that rooster crowing, see the sunrise. The world's waking up, but I wanna stay inside. Gonna hold on to you where we can be alone, 'cause I could lay here with you, girl, till the cows come home. Till the cows come home.
Excellent video there.
Thanks, man.
So tell me about do you usually use the same production company for all your videos, or do you mix it up?
So early on, I did use the same guy, but recently I've kind of changed a little bit, just to, you don't want to be too stagnant, with
Right.
anything that you do. But yeah, I mean, everybody I've ever worked with, they've all been great, outstanding, man. And this in particular, this videographer slash producer is a great friend of mine, and we just have a great relationship. And he was able to kind of follow my vision through with this video, and that was really important for me, just to kind of capture a lot of little things that he put in there. So yeah, that was actually my friend Zach Hayes with Rayyard Media. Shout out to him in
Excellent.
Springfield,
Yes,
Georgia.
I'm all about giving a shout out to creatives
Yeah.
involved in the process here, man. And
Oh yeah.
man, that's top notch stuff there. So tell me a bit about this desire to be a country artist and where it came from.
Yeah, man. So I always go back to when I was a young kid. My parents always played mainstream country radio, and I grew up in the '90s. So I was born in '91, And I just remember a lot of Alan Jackson, a lot of George Strait, a lot of Garth Brooks and Tim McGraw, and all those guys that were really prominent back then. And I mean, all those guys were great as entertainers and singers, but really, when it boiled down to like the connection I had with country music, it was all in the songs, man. Songs like Chattahoochee with Alan Jackson and The Dance with Garth Brooks, like all these songs that were just so real to me. And I just connected with them at an early age. And I always had a desire to, you know, somehow have my hands in the country music industry so I could be a part of that same storytelling, and somehow finding a way to connect everyday life, especially rural life, with music, and to somehow portray that in a way that relates to other people. And that's really where it came from. I think God just put it inside of me for whatever reason. Hopefully I can be as impactful as some of those guys were on me down the road. But I just love country music, man. I love the songs. I love the instrumentation. The list goes on, but that's kind of where it started for me.
Well, and you talk about your area of the country there. I mean, you had Rhett Akins, who's a great songwriter from not too far down the road. You know, you had Travis Tritt and like you said, Alan Jackson and so many others. So it's really a hotbed of country when you talk about the 90s and early 2000s.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny, man. Even just down the road at Georgia Southern University, that's where Cole Swindell
Swindell, yeah.
and Luke Bryan actually got started with his career there. And I mean, there's just the list goes on, man. So you're surrounded with it here, which is a great thing. It's a great well of just inspiration for country music. I mean, gosh, you go outside and you just look around, and there's a song that can be written from anything that you see, you know. Right. And it's awesome. Yeah.
So those guys figured out their path from Georgia to Nashville. And I'm always curious, how do you go from playing around your hometown to saying, man, I'm going to make that 436-mile trek from to Nashville from where you're at there, and kind of separate yourself from the scads of other talented singers and songwriters who are also trying to build a career in country music?
Yeah, man. So Nashville, I was always kind of infatuated with the city, but more so as I got older and I started writing my own songs, I really wanted to find a way to, I guess, see them through. Like, I want to be able to, like, I don't know what the word is, like, just display them in a way that they needed to be, you know, heard or seen or whatever. But I mean, Nashville is just the hub. Like, there's just so many people there that can help you get to where you want to go. And for me, when I wrote Georgia Calls Me Home, the song that I introed the show with here, I really spent a lot of time just researching and looking for a producer who could help me get the sound that I wanted for that song. And I spent months. I mean, I'd look at everybody from like kind of major label guys and kind of figured out, okay, who can I afford to hire for this? And then kind of found my list of about 20 guys. And I just listened to songs, man, that they produced, and eventually settled on Grady Saxman, which is a guy that I've been using for years now for recording and production. But just, I guess, to answer your question, like, I just wanted to be able to totally see through my dream of writing, recording, and releasing original music. And that was the big pull that took me to Nashville, was just getting into that circle of people that could help me really get to the next level. And it was magic. It was totally opened my eyes to a whole new world of the music industry. And, you know, it really helped me realize that my dreams could become a reality, you know. And from then on, like, it's just been a love affair with that city. It's awesome.
So tell me about the networking involved, because you did the initial research that got you in the door here and got you a producer, but how do you keep those connections going and keep building so you can build upon that foundation?
Yeah, man. So in 2023, we have a wonderful thing called social media and the internet. And it's been, I mean, a lot of prayer too, but I've been able to, I guess, more or less since I've kind of started seeking out music at a higher level, I've tried to surround myself with people that are doing the same thing. And just for instance, I'm just this latest release I co-wrote with a guy named Blake Chaffin. Long story short, I was a big fan of Logan Mize. He's a country artist out of the Kansas area. He's done a lot of stuff in Nashville, but I just listened to a record one day, and it was just one of the best records that I'd heard in a long time. And after that, I started just researching the writers off of that record. And lo and behold, like I just kind of looked them up and reached out to them via Instagram or whatever that was. And they responded to me, and we just started writing music together. So over Zoom, kind of like what we're doing right now. But I mean, it's yeah, when I go up to Nashville, man, I'm always meeting people. I've got some family up there as well. So I try to stay for several days at the time, and just use every resource I can to knock out my goal list while I'm there. So
Right.
it's cool, man. There's just unlimited possibilities of what you can do with networking these days.
So when you started cold calling different writers, I mean, for the most part, were they receptive?
Yeah, some of them are. I mean, some of them just, they don't get a response, but
Right.
there's some that do. And it's just a matter of getting in a room, whether it be virtual or physical, um, and just working together. And hopefully if it goes well, you get a second right. If not, that's cool too. You kind of move on. But I've been able to, develop a small circle of guys that I write with pretty frequently, here physically and also in Nashville. So I do a lot of virtual stuff, man. I also do a lot of solo writing. So I'm able to kind of get the best of both worlds, even though I don't live in Nashville.
When was the first time you actually took a stage and performed?
Oh, I mean, it had to have been at church. At some point when I was a kid, we did a lot of stuff with the church, but I think I guess professionally, if you want to call it, probably when I was 20 and there was a local talent competition going on, and I'd written a song. And I just decided to enter it. Or actually, I think my mom kind of like wanted me to do it. And then I was like, okay, I entered the talent competition, and I think I won second place or something. And I mean, it was a cool little competition, but it really kind of was a big door for me to walk through at the time, because I was like, I took an original song I'd never played in front of anybody and played it on a stage, and the rest is history, I guess.
You remember what that feeling was like, man? It had to be a little unnerving.
Yeah, it was really vulnerable, man. It was actually at a time my grandmother had just passed away a couple years before, but I kind of written it in memory of her. It wasn't a very good song, but it was heartfelt, so I guess it was true to me. And like taking that and putting it on display in front of all these people that were watching was kind of nerve-wracking, but it felt so good in a way, man. It's like the first time you realize, like, hey, people actually gravitate towards the music I'm writing and can relate to it and connect to it emotionally. Like, finding out that you can actually make that connection with people through music was one of the biggest breakthroughs I think I've had, as far as pursuing a career in music.
So what was it like the first time you hit a recording studio and had to go through that whole process of taking something raw and then refining it until you had exactly what you were looking for and what your producer was looking for?
So there's a lot of trial and error.
Right.
I started out in my early days working with some local guys, and um, they were great people, but it wasn't quite like, until you try recording a time or two, you don't really know what you're doing. And I didn't at the time, and sometimes still don't, but I've learned a lot over the years. Um, but I mean, it's a learning experience for sure. I learned a lot of what not to do the first time I did it. And then when I went back and kind of regrouped, I took about a year and just tried to write music that I felt strongly about. And then Georgia Calls Me Home was the first song I wrote that I knew I wanted to, okay, like, I need to find the big boys, some guys that can help me get exactly what I want. And that was what the process was like. So I got to the studio, and in Nashville, everybody is so good, man. Like the session players that we were working with, they're extremely talented. And basically, I played through the song a couple times. They made their chart, their notes, and I put my headphones on, and listen to them and track the song right in front of me in the same room that we shared at that time. And it was just like, I don't know if I've ever felt more overwhelmed by anything. Like, it was just the quality of the music and the way it struck me, like emotionally, and it just perfected the exact thing I was looking for in the moment. It was awesome, man. And I think that day I kind of caught the bug in a whole new level that I'd never experienced before. But um, it was great, man. I mean, there's just some kind of feeling that I don't think anybody could ever experience until, you experience like that. I mean, with a dream, a thought turning into a song, turning into a road trip, and going to a studio where there's guys in the room that have tracked #1 songs on country radio, and having them like lay down your song, like instrument by instrument, note by note. It was incredible.
No pressure, no pressure there, huh?
Yeah, it was. I was really humbled. I mean, you go from your small town thinking that you're somebody into a town of masters, and you find out real quick it's like, I'm just another guy, man.
Right, right. So you take some of that first music that you recorded back in Nashville back to the home folks in Georgia. How was it received?
It was awesome, man. Gosh, I guess it's like, you're just a kid playing your guitar in the local bars and restaurants, doing your thing, and then you hit them with something that I feel like was a great song for me, especially just releasing my first time out of Nashville. The response was incredible. I remember people just reaching out to me, telling me like, this is great. This should be radio. This should be a hit. On and on, man. It was awesome. Experiencing that. It was definitely rewarding. Not so much like the people, giving you the pat on the back or whatever, but just to hear people connecting with the song and it kind of speaking to them the way it spoke to me. Seeing that happen was the most gratifying part of anything.
How's radio been to you here in the state and in your region?
It's great, man. There's a lot of great stations, local stations that play my music pretty regularly. Um, there's a really good friend that I have. His name's Brian Steele over in Statesboro. He owns a couple stations there. And anytime I have a new release, I actually go on their morning show and we'll debut the song on the radio for the first time. And, just talk about kind of like what we're doing right now, talk about the song, talk about the process. And I just love like connecting the local community, like having them in the loop of what's going on, and I'm able to kind of display everything and showcase that to them, and make them a part of the process too. So just having your song on the radio, whether it's local, regional, national, it's one of those things where you're just driving along, and if you hear it happen, you just have to kind of stop and pull over and be like, wow, this is just incredible, man. Like, it's what you dream about as a little kid. You hear all these Alan Jacksons and Tim McGraws on the radio, and you're singing the songs back in the car, and then you hear yourself on there, and it's just like, it gives you chill bumps. It's pretty crazy.
Well, it's a huge payoff for, the blood, sweat, and tears and all the struggle that people don't see along the way.
Yeah, man. There's a lot that goes on behind the scenes. It's really a full-time on top of a full-time job, man.
Right.
But the grind is what makes it worth it.
All right. Well, you've done what I believe to be a smart thing, and that's rather than knocking heads with the, million other artists there in Nashville fighting for that same turf. You record in Nashville, but then you really concentrated on building that fan base in your area of Georgia.
Yeah.
I think that's a smart thing, and it sounds like the fans have responded accordingly.
Yeah, man, it's really cool to see. Sometimes I wonder if I'm doing it the right way, or maybe there's a better way. But just taking this music that I feel so strongly about. I mean, if I'm willing to drive to Nashville and spend money that I've earned to get a song produced and recorded, to be able to bring that back and see people's reactions, like, I mean, I might be at church or I might be at the grocery store, and they'll just kind of stop me and be like, I love that song, and it's just rewarding to see people's, response to it. And also, like I also try to play shows regionally here in Georgia. So I play, I hit Savannah, Atlanta. I've got a show coming up in like Perry this fall, so I'm able to kind of play all over the state. And my goal was to just start within in the early stages, like 30 miles of where I live, and just kind of grow it from there. I've kind of expanded it to maybe 60 miles or a couple hours or whatever outside of my hometown. And I'm really starting to see the hard work pay off, I guess, because I'm getting
Right.
booked for shows on the other side of the state, some in South Carolina a little bit, and it's just really cool to grow it from the ground up.
Well, I want to share a picture that you shared earlier today, and this is a sign to me that you're doing things the right way here.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. That was we played the Vidalia Onion Festival a couple weeks ago, and believe it or not, that was the first time. If you see the necklaces they have on the lanyards, there's a laminate with my face on it. I think that was the first time I'd ever had a laminate with my picture on it, but
Uh,
it was really cool. I love meeting people. One of my goals is at every show, if I'm able to, when I get done, is just to go to the merch table and just to meet everybody that comes to either buy a shirt or just to say hey or take a picture or whatever. I think that part of my mission is not just to make music, but also make relationships with people and somehow have a positive impact on their life. And I found it a lot like more enriching if I'm able to actually make a face-to-face connection with them, especially if I'm playing a show wherever they show up at. I mean, if they're paying money to come see me sing, the least I can do is tell them thank you. And I think it's just really cool to be able to, just get a little personal with them whenever I can.
Absolutely. I got to share another one you did here, region, because I believe we got a mutual friend here.
Oh, Hannah Dasher. Yeah, man. She's from Effingham County, which is about, I don't know, an hour from where I live. And she was awesome, man. We got open for her last fall at the Springfield Fall Festival. I actually have a Effingham County shirt on here. So shout out to Hannah Dasher.
There
But
you go.
yeah, man, she was awesome. She put on a great show. And it was funny. I don't know if I've ever met her before the show, but when I saw her in the big hair, it just kind of like I felt like I was meeting, Winona or somebody really iconic. So it was it was just great.
Well, I tell you, a very genuine person, and she has stepped into that circle at the Grand Ole Opry, man. It'd
Uh,
be a great path to follow.
yeah, dude. I've played a lot of great gigs. I've met a lot of great people, but the top of my list, if I never do anything else with music, is to play the Grand Ole Opry. I don't care if I'm, the opener for the opener. If I only play one song or whatever, just to step into that circle and play a song I've written is the top of my list for sure.
Man, yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll keep beating that drum for that because I would love to
Yeah.
see that happen. Something else that I thought was pretty cool that you did last season was play a pregame concert at the Atlanta Braves Truist Park, and I would have to imagine, as a Georgia native and really as a son of the South for that matter, doesn't get much better than being chosen by the Braves to entertain their fans.
Man, that was super meaningful for me. Gosh, just looking back at it, I've always been a huge Braves fan. It runs in my blood. My grandpa was like, he watched every single game. I used to spend a lot of time with him during the summer and, at night watching games, spending time with him. So there was always kind of a family connection to the Braves. And getting asked to come perform like a pregame show was probably one of the coolest experiences ever. And I was actually able to meet several players and go down to the clubhouse and kind of hang out a little bit and just get to know the Braves outside of just watching them on the field. Like I got to meet a lot of the staff, and it was just a connection and a kind of a relationship thing I would never have been able to have if it were not for music. So that in itself was probably the most gratifying experience ever. Just having some kind of affiliation with the Braves that I could bring this guitar and songs I've written to a place that I watch on TV. It was awesome.
Man, it's always good to network because you never know when you could use one of those guys in your corner, huh?
Yeah, man. There's actually, if you any Braves fans out there, our current closer, AJ Minter, is a huge Braves, huge country music fan. And it was really cool to kind of meet him. And, we kind of got to swap. I gave him one of my T-shirts, and he went to his locker room and brought me one of his jerseys. I was just like, okay, I'll take this trade any day of the week.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really cool.
Well, you started putting out music, and your career started taking off. Then all of a sudden, the pandemic came around. It happened. Were you afraid it was going to derail your career?
I will say it really shifted my focus. It really, during that time, like a lot of our live shows and stuff kind of got shut down. And I took a step back and kind of really looked at where I was, and I tried to figure out where I wanted to be. And I put a lot of time into songwriting, just trying to work on my craft and get a lot better and just improve upon that as much as I could during that time. And some of my favorite songs that I've written were written during that time. And I don't think I'd be where I am right now as a songwriter if it were not for COVID happening. So, I mean, you can always look at that time, and I mean, there was definitely a lot of downside. I was going crazy. I just wanted to play my guitar in front of people. But there's a lot of upside too. I was able to do a lot of just songwriting and focusing on who I was as an artist, and kind of put a plan together for the next couple of years of, what songs I want to release, just what are some of my goals. And then I was also able to do a lot of virtual connection. Like I did a ton of Facebook lives and Instagram lives and stuff like that. And funny enough, I was able to really connect with a whole group of people that don't necessarily come to my shows. They may be from the north side of Georgia and don't really have the luxury of driving 6 hours to come see me play somewhere. So it was great, man. I was able to meet virtually some of the people that I don't think would normally hear my music were, kind of online a little bit more, and they were just digging for content a little bit more, and they kind of ran across my stuff and became a big fan of what I was doing. So it was a tough time in a lot of ways, but it was really a blessing in a lot of ways too. So I look at it from both sides of the coin.
Well, you mentioned long-term goals, and I want to talk about that here in a little bit. But before I do, I want to share another song of yours, and this one certainly will strike a chord with dog lovers out there. This one is called "Dogs Go to Heaven." Tell us more about the inspiration behind it.
I remember one day I was outside with my wife, and we have a garden, and we have about 5 acres here in South Georgia, right next to a huge cotton field. And it was sunset, and we have a yellow lab, and she's about 5 years old. And she was just kind of running around as the sun was perfectly setting, and it just kind of gave me this idea of like a dog in heaven, I guess, because of the color of the sky and everything. And I was just like, man, I don't know if there's a song. I mean, that would be a country song, right? Like "Dogs Go to Heaven" or "Dogs in Heaven" or whatever. And so I just kind of went from there, man. I remember I grew up with my mom's dog was a miniature Dachshund, and he actually just passed away about a month ago, and he was 15 years old. But I just remember thinking about her during that time. Like I knew, like he was getting towards the end of his life, and I knew it would be a meaningful song for me to have, like not necessarily to gain a lot of fans, but just for like a selfish reason, like just to have this for me and my family to, have to remember him by, and all that stuff. But this song actually, when I wrote it, it just felt really, I guess, raw and really heartfelt, really vulnerable. And believe it or not, man, this song, after TikTok kind of surfaced and became a thing, it went, I guess, kind of viral. Like the sound of the song was a song that people started using after their dog had passed away. They'd create like a highlight video of their dog's life, and they'd attach the sound to it. And like you can scroll, if you search "Dogs Go to Heaven" on TikTok, you can just scroll the thousands of videos people have like used my song on, and it's become one of my biggest songs on YouTube and everything. So something I didn't really intend to be a big crowd pleasing song actually ended up becoming one of my biggest songs. Go figure.
It meets people where they're at, for sure.
Yeah.
It's a very poignant song, and I want to share it for everybody now. This is "Dogs Go to Heaven."
They say a good dog's a man's best friend. Lord knows mine was one of them. Over the years and through the miles, he stayed right there by my side. From taking walks and chasing balls, running up and down our halls, those memories I won't forget. I know he's not here, but man, I bet if good dogs go to heaven, that's where mine's gotta be. Jumping through the waves and playing fetch on a beach by the crystal sea. I bet he's riding around with Grandpa on those shiny golden streets. And if good dogs go to heaven, he'll be at those pearly gates waiting on me. 'Cause I said more than most words do. As time went by, the closer we grew, and it didn't matter where we'd go. But if there's a chance, yeah, I just know if good dogs go to heaven, that's where mine's gotta be. Jumping through the waves and playing fetch on a beach by the crystal sea. I bet he's riding around with Grandpa on those shiny golden streets. And if good dogs go to heaven, he'll be at those pearly gates waiting on me. When I buried him, I vowed and said a prayer. Lord, I hope we meet again when I get there. 'Cause the good dogs go to heaven, that's where mine's gotta be. Jumping through the waves and playing fetch on a beach by the crystal sea. I bet he's riding around with Grandpa on those shiny golden streets. And if good dogs go to heaven, he'll be at those pearly gates waiting on me. Ooh, I hope he's waiting on me.
We'll compose ourselves and then we'll talk.
Grab your tissues.
Man, good stuff. Yeah, we should have added that disclaimer beforehand.
Too late now. Sorry, guys.
You talked about your long-term goals for the business right now. Things are starting to take off, and this career is starting to grow some legs here. What's the future hold for you?
Man, I think my goal for now is to continue growing as a songwriter. I think there's a lot I think I've come a long way, but I still have a long way to go to where I want to be. And I think to get farther in the music industry, it starts with the song. And I've spent a lot of time just investing in storytelling in songs and just really connecting with people through what I think a good song should be. And so there's that side of it, and there's also I just want to continue to grow my fan base from the ground up. I want to continue playing shows for people and releasing music that people love and can relate to, and all that good stuff, man. I think there's definitely some things I'd love to do. I've actually this year got to getting to check a big thing off my list as a musician. This isn't official news yet, but I guess it might as well be. We're actually playing the Georgia National Fair this fall, so I booked 4 nights playing at the biggest fair in the state of Georgia. So that's going to be really cool.
That's excellent.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that. But more than anything, man, I want to continue to master my craft and to show people not just what I want to sound like, but what I have to say through my music. So, um, and I just want to see that grow in itself.
Now, your backing band, are those all folks from your area down there, or any of them from the Nashville area?
So yeah, right now, most of these guys are pretty local. There's a couple that live within 30 miles of where I'm at. And there's also one that lives just across the South Carolina, Georgia border in Ridgeland, South Carolina. Um, I've had some guys that have played with me for years that actually decided they want to move to Nashville. So I've lost a couple people to Nashville, but I've also made a lot of good connections through Nashville, and I found some really good players that are living down here that have ties in the music industry and that are really great musicians. My guitar player, and he's toured before. He's done the professional music thing. He was great friends with Greg Allman and had played with him a little bit. And also my drummer was a touring musician for years. And I mean, they're all really solid. They're all really great guys. And fortunately they hang around with me and play some shows with me. So I think I learned more from them than, than the other way around. So that's always great in the live setting to have guys that have your back that have been there and done that. And I'm just trying to get to that level. So
Well, I guess the biggest question is, do you have fun when you get up there on stage?
oh man, that is, yeah. So it's awesome, man. I'm able to just connect with people that are listening to us on a different level. Cause for me, like I want to share the experience. I don't just want to sing to our audience. I want to make them a part of the experience. So I try to talk with them and interact with them, tell them stories behind songs, or maybe play a cover song that they're going to sing along to, or that they've known their whole life. And then also I like to let the band do their thing. I mean, they're phenomenal musicians, and I'm able to kind of watch them perform and listen to them. So I call it like an experience more so than just a Clayton Hackle show, because there's a lot more that goes into it than just me playing songs that I've written. But that's the most fun part of it, man. You get to get up there with your guitar, and we rehearse all the time. So we try to be excellent at what we do, and we want to like display that for everybody, but also make them a part of the experience. So it's great, man. I absolutely love that side of it.
So when you step off that stage and head back to the merch table after the show, what's the greatest compliment that somebody can give you?
Wow. That is a great question. I think that anytime you can bring out, like for me, a lot of times I think people come to shows like expecting to just get away from the daily grind of life. Like they want to hear a song that, they've heard on the radio or that they've heard of yours. And I think to kind of put a different layer on it, like to take them out of their current mindset. Like if they have come just boggled by work or just whatever problems that life brings, you're able to just kind of take them out of that world and put them somewhere else where they're just having like a thrill. They're having an experience that can't be replaced by anything else other than live music. And I think for them to come and tell me like we had the best time tonight, like it was just it's something we haven't had this great of a time in weeks or whatever. Like I just like to entertain people, man, and I also like to like have them be a part of what we're doing. So I don't know if there's a perfect compliment, like other than we just really enjoyed ourselves tonight. Not necessarily we love listening to you, but we had a great time. Like just coming out and being here.
Right. Well, I know one of the things that a lot of people always say is never meet your heroes because they might not meet up to your expectations. And I know there have been some that I kind of figured they would be what they were, and there was others that I was really hopeful, and they turned out to be not what I hoped they would be. How do you guard yourself against it? Because everybody can have a rough day or a bad day or be tired and just not be feeling it. But man, when you're in that arena and you've got those people looking up to you, man, you got kind of a responsibility to be on, don't you?
Yeah. Whenever I first started opening for bigger acts, I was kind of starstruck a little bit. You go into those situations and, you've seen them on TV or you hear them play. or maybe there's some really great songs they put out that you're a fan of. But over time, man, like just playing shows, I mean, I still have a lot of respect for a lot of people, but I've come to see through a lot of the like celebrity / hero side of things, because they're doing the same thing you are. They're just up there playing music and trying to connect with people. And I think once that kind of clicked in my mind, I was able to kind of look past the person, whoever that may be. Now, that being said, I've had some great encounters, man. One of my favorite stories, our band got booked to play. It opened for Shenandoah, a few towns away from here, a few years ago. And our set got rained out that night, just totally flooded for a couple hours before they had to pull the plug on us. But the interaction I had with Marty Rabin of Shenandoah, if you guys know him, was one that I don't think I could ever like replace with anything. He was super inspirational. The conversations that he had with me that night and that he shared with me were more like, I was really bummed because we didn't get to play, but just getting to meet him and hear what he had to say to me and just inspire me was one of the cornerstones of my career, I think, because he was just an awesome guy. And it's funny because like I knew him because of his songs, and Shenandoah was just an awesome band that was kind of on the top of the world whenever I was growing up. But since I've met him, I kind of see him for not just the musician but the person, and like it's just hard to kind of explain exactly what that was like. But funny enough, like he's kind of become one of my heroes now because I just respect him in a whole different light now. I mean, you can see people play, you can be a fan of their music, but you don't really know the person until you get a face-to-face experience with them. So I still have a lot of heroes like George Strait, Alan Jackson. Those guys will always be, respected for me. But there's definitely a lot of other guys that have gained it, not necessarily through their music, but through who they are as a person.
Well, it's funny you bring that up about Marty, because for all the personalities in country music, his is a name that seems to come up quite a lot as being somebody who is that kind of figure. He's passionate about the music, but he's also kind of an open book in dealing with other artists and lending a hand or lending encouragement.
Yeah, he was great, man. He told me just a lot of things that, I mean, there's so much in the music industry that can go wrong. I mean, you can put your focus on things that don't really matter. But his advice was to, follow the Lord and believe in what you're doing, even if you're the only one that's believing in it. Like stick to who you are. And I've tried to abide by that as much as I can. I mean, I'm not a perfect person, but it just kind of always stays true in the back of my head. And, funny enough, there was a couple of years went by and I went to Nashville for the first time and actually ran into Paul Sanders, which was the bass player for Shenandoah at AJ's downtown. And we ended up playing a song together. That's the first experience I had playing in Nashville, was on a stage at AJ's with Shenandoah's bass player. So it's funny, like the small circle that ends up closing in on you when you think it's, huge and as big as the universe, it ends up like finding its way back around. So, it's a pretty cool thing.
Well, I tell you, I wanted to share with our followers another of your great songs that really show kind of your depth as a songwriter and a performer. This one's called Let Love Grow. Tell us a bit about this one.
Yeah, so this is one of those songs I wrote during COVID, and my wife is actually a big garden lover. She loves plants. We have plants all over our house. And that year, as did everybody else, I think, we just spent a lot of time at home and in our yards, and she was planting flowers. And I just had the inspiration one morning, life and relationships are kind of like, they're like plants and they're like crops. Like you have to nurture them, you have to pour into them and just give them love for them to be able to flourish. So this was one of those songs that just came out of me being in the backyard one day and seeing my wife plant flowers. It's funny.
That's beautiful. Well, I tell you what, we want to share it with everybody now. This is Let Love Grow.
pretty spring day, about the middle of May, when he'd finally had enough. He said, I need a little time to clear my mind, so he tore off in his truck. Well, he put it in park at his old man's farm, got out and slammed the door. Said, Dad, we've tried, but I don't think I can do this anymore. His daddy shook his head and said, you gotta let love grow. Trust me, son, this I know. It's not all easy, and there'll be pain, but a garden can't grow if it ain't got rain. You can't always see what's growing way down deep. Just plant your faith and pour out your heart, 'cause don't you know, you gotta let love grow. A few years go by, she becomes his wife, and they're dreaming about having babies. First comes a boy, fills the world with joy, and then they started thinking maybe, yeah, that they ain't through. Then number two came with pink and streams of curls. Well, little man pouted, stood up and shouted, Dad, I didn't want a girl. His daddy picked him up and said, you gotta let love grow. Trust me, son, this I know. It's not all easy, and there'll be pain, but a garden can't grow if it ain't got rain. You can't always see what's growing way down deep. Just plant your faith and pour out your heart, 'cause don't you know, yeah, you gotta let love grow down in your heart. Can't let a dry spell keep you apart. Just plant the seed, man, keep the faith, and love will find a way. Trust me, son, this I know. It's not all easy, and there'll be pain, but a garden can't grow if it ain't got rain. You can't always see what's growing way down deep. Just plant your faith and pour out your heart, 'cause don't you know, you gotta let love grow. You gotta let love grow.
Catchy song there, and I love the interaction with the crowd. It's got to be a great feeling to be amongst a crowd like that, and people starting to learn the words to your songs and actually see them knowing those songs and singing them back to you.
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I think that's kind of the biggest thing for a songwriter, is for their songs to be known and to be sang back to you, and just to kind of spread the message of what your songs are about, man. It's really cool. I was actually playing that same festival. That one in particular was a couple of years ago, but we played the same festival last year, and I saw some of the same faces that we actually got in that video singing the same song back to me years later. So it was pretty cool.
Well, you got some new music for him to sing now, and we mentioned it at the start of the show here. On Friday, you dropped your new single, Lost in the Country. As we close things out tonight, will you share it with us?
Yeah, man, I love this song so much, man. This is one of those songs I felt like I had stored up inside of me for years, and I was able to actually write it with my good friend Blake Chaffin. Shout out to Blake, because this song wouldn't be what it is without him. So this one's called Lost in the Country. Hope you guys enjoy it. Blanket of stars covering up a Georgia sky. Steel guitar sliding through the sound of a whippoorwill cry. Down a county road where I turn off, through it in park till the whole world stops. Get lost in the country where my soul's free, between the George Strait records and the pine trees. Every back road and every every song takes me right where I belong. 'Cause when I'm way out here, everything I see strikes a chord in my heart like an old six string. So know I'm right at home if you find me lost in the country. I love to watch the sun setting on the dash. Those melodies speaking like a whisper from my past. They're reminding me who I really am. There's a part of me that's always been lost in the country, where my soul's free, between the George Strait records and the pine trees. Every back road and every song takes me right where I belong. 'Cause when I'm way out here, everything I see strikes a chord in my heart like an old six string. So know I'm right at home if you find me lost in the country. Lost in the country. I got that FM station turned up with the windows down, and I'm lost in the country where my soul's free, between the George Strait records and the pine trees. Every back road and every song takes me right where I belong. 'Cause when I'm way out here, everything I see strikes a chord in my heart like an old six string. So know I'm right at home if you find me lost in the country. Lost in the country.
I think that describes us well here on Rural Strong Radio, Rural Strong Media, and Tractors and Troubadours. We love to be lost in the country.
That's right, man. Absolutely.
Good stuff. I tell you what, if folks want to know more about your career, how can they follow you in the digital and social world?
Yeah, so you can hit my website up at claytonhackle.com, or you can go to my Facebook page, Clayton Hackle Music, my Instagram, same thing, Clayton Hackle Music. I have a TikTok that I try to upload some stuff every now and then, but Facebook, Instagram, and my website, I'd say, would be go-to places. And you can follow me on Spotify and Apple Music, or YouTube as well. My YouTube channel, Clayton Hackle Music, has all my content as well.
Absolutely. Get on there tonight and listen to the full band version of Lost in the Country. Great song. It'll get your toes tapping here, and also be listening to it on Rural Strong Radio. It's in the mix there, and I hope you listen to it. And Clayton, we want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us here, and invite you to come back anytime to share new music or just to hang out.
Thanks, Brent. Man, it's been great. I mean, talking about country music, talking about farming and all this stuff, it's awesome. I love every minute of it.
Absolutely, man. We could go a whole lot deeper here. We'll save some of that for future conversations here, and I'm pulling for you. I think you're doing great work down there.
Thanks, man. Thank you for everything you're doing for independent artists like me, just anybody that's trying to make good music. I mean, we couldn't get it out without guys like you spreading it around. So thank you guys at Real Strong Media, and for you, Brent, for doing all this.
We'll keep grinding here, man, and we'll keep taking it out to the country. We want to thank everybody so much for joining us today, and I'd invite you to check out our Tractors and Troubadours podcast, where each week we bring you agriculture industry newsmakers, hot-button industry issues, educational features, and the best in traditional country music. Tractors and Troubadours can be found at ruralstrongmedia.com or wherever you get your podcasts. We'd also love for you to check out Rural Strong Radio, which is our 24/7 streaming radio station found at ruralstrongmedia.com or on the Live 365 streaming radio app. It plays the best in traditional country music. We got some Western swing, some bluegrass, and yes, we've got your Clayton Hackle on there. So Make sure you tune into that again at ruralstrongmedia.com or the Live 365 radio app. And I tell you what else is on there, the best in agriculture programming. We have the Bottom Line Report with Mark Oppold, Farm Gate with Stu Ellis, the Ag Law and Tax Report with Roger McCohen, and the Dirt with Nutrien Senior Agronomist Mike Howell. And now it's our foray into daily trucking industry coverage with Landline Now from Landline Media. And you can check that out each weekday night at 7 p.m. Eastern, or on the weekends, Saturday and Sunday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern. So we've got plenty of opportunities for you guys to check out as we're not moving away from agriculture, but we're going to add some trucking in there too and bring in the trucking crowd, because another group of folks that love true traditional country music. So we want to send a shout out to the truckers that keep America moving here. A couple other programming notes for Rural Strong Radio on Sundays at 9 a.m. Central. We feature two great programmings coming out of Texas. The first, from Vidor to the World, it's Robbie Lynn with Sundays Kind of Country. Robbie plays 3 hours of great inspirational country music from legendary artists and independents as well. It's a great way to fill your soul and get your week started. So I hope you go check out Robbie Lynn with Sundays Kind of Country. Then at 1 p.m. Eastern, noon Central, it's Billy Bowles Swinging Country, emanating from the KSSL FM studios in the Lubbock, Texas area. And Billy plays 2 hours of the greatest in Western swing and traditional country music. So be sure to check in for Sundays Kind of Country with Robbie Lynn at 10 a.m. Eastern, and stick around for Billy Bowles Swinging Country. And again, ruralstrongmedia.com or on the Live 365 radio app is where to find that. Well, I tell you what, it's time for us to get on out of here, and we're going to have more of these live streams, both music related and ag related, coming up throughout the spring and summer months. So make sure you plug into Rural Strong Media socials for more details on those. And we want to say a special shout out to our sponsor, Economics by Nutrien, and hope you'll check them out for some valuable agronomic tools. You can find them at nutrien-economics.com. That's nutrien-economics.com. Well, the show automatically archives, so if you missed any of it live, you can catch it on demand immediately following the live stream. It's time for us to get on out of here. So for Clayton Hackle, it's Brent Adams. Thank you for joining us for Rural Strong Live. Have a great night, everyone.